Is pronunciation the one thing that stops you in your track, in your journey to learning French? And are you seriously considering avoiding all the words that include an R because its pronunciation intimidates you? French R's really aren't the beast you think it is. In this video, we are going to tame the R beast and turn it into your favorite French sound. Bonjour and welcome to French with me, Ingrid. On this channel, I help you understand and improve your French in small and easy steps. Are you ready? So welcome here, leave your day behind and let's go. Let's learn some French. Today we are talking about how to master the pronunciation of the French letter R. Is the letter R really one of the trickiest sounds to master in French? I think it is the case only because you have been told to fear it. And yet, once you know the mechanics behind it, you'll probably wonder what the big deal was all about. Yet, you already have a strong base. Listen to these words: bird, run, arid. You've probably not realized that some of the sound in the words that you use in your own language every day are probably not that far off the French R. Let's debunk a couple of misconceptions to start with. The French do not roll their R's. In fact, I am yet to be able to roll a Spanish R, and the R's I use every day are very far off anything rolling. And the French R is also not the Edith Piaf R in that famous song. Her R's in Non, je ne regrette rien are very pushed, exaggerated, a little bit harsh. In fact, if you listen to interviews with Edith Piaf, the R's when she uses regular spoken French are very different. The level of emphasis she uses in a song is not used in everyday French. Okay, so let's start this step-by-step guide on how to pronounce the French R. I'd like you to visualize the letter R as R. First, I think it's important to visualize where the sound takes place. If you think of your palate and the back of your palate, the sound takes place a little bit further back from that and obviously a little bit down. Try and visualize this, a little bit back and a little bit down. I think it's really important that you apply a little bit of mindful visualization of where the sound takes place. So next, we need to think about the placement of the tongue. Can you do a G as in go or a K as in okay? G, K, G, K. You may have noticed that the K is actually a little bit further back than the G. G, K, G, K. When you make the sound K in English, your tongue is in the right position. The back of the tongue is actually touching the back of your palate, near the throat. Why don't you give it a try? K, K, K. Do you notice that the sound is actually being made when you release the tongue? It drops off the palate and allows the air to pass through. For our R's, air, we do not want that release. We want the airflow to be constant. To help with this, think about changing the position of the tip of your tongue and bringing it down behind the teeth at the bottom of your mouth. So a little bit like this. Try it. You'll see with the tongue in this position, it's already a little bit harder to be doing those G and K. K, K. Next and final step, think about leaving a tiny bit of space between your palate and the back of your tongue in order to allow for the air to flow through. Now, apologies for the sounds that are going to come out of my mouth. They're obviously not very natural, but we are trying to exercise that mechanism. So I'm now going to try and do a G, K with the tongue in the right position in my mouth. K, k. And now I'm going to leave a little more space. And now simply apply the sound R, which I told you about at the beginning of this video. So tip of the tongue down and back of the tongue really close to the palate, but not touching it. R, R, R. And you probably will notice that it's actually quite soft, almost delicate, and it's probably a lot softer than any R's that you may have tried to pronounce when you didn't understand the dynamics of the positioning of the tongue in your mouth and at the back of your throat. R, R. So typically the French sound R actually changes a little bit depending on where it is positioned in the word. At the start of the word, it actually sounds quite soft, a little bit like you've just learned to pronounce it. So for instance, un restaurant, a restaurant, rouge, red, du riz, rice, une rue, a street. These are good examples for you to repeat a number of times. You're applying the sound R followed by different vowels. If you repeat the word several times, it'll get easier each time. Un restaurant, du riz, rouge, une rue. Un restaurant, du riz, rouge, une rue. When the letter R is linked with another consonant, it sounds and feels a little bit harsher. The R will sound a little bit harsher, it will be a little bit longer, and the R will not be a voice sound, so your voice box will not be activated. For instance, bref, brief, très, very, drôle, funny. Pronouncing an R right after a D or a T can be a little bit difficult to start with, and this is all to do with where your tongue falls in your mouth when you pronounce D or T. In this instance, the tip of your tongue goes up towards the front of your palate. Obviously, if you follow this with an R, you are going to need a little bit of time to reposition your tongue for that R sound. D, T, R. So I have a little tip for you. Try and pronounce your D's and T's with the tip of the tongue already positioned behind your teeth at the bottom of the mouth. It will sound a little bit like this. D, T, D, T. What you'll notice is that it will have lost the resonance that the English D and T have. You're then in a much better place to pronounce your French R. And a little bonus is that you've also learned to create the French D and T, which is a little softer than the English D and T. And finally, the tongue for the sound G, K and R is pretty much in the same position. So the two sounds are pronounced almost at the same time. Grand, big, crier, to shout. At the end of the word, the R becomes really subtle. For instance, dormir, to sleep, partir, to leave, un cœur, a heart, clair, light. So as a recap, the French R sound is really soft at the start of a word, a little bit scratchy when it is used in the middle of a word or with another consonant, and very subtle at the end of a word. As a very quick aside, you see the sound R being spelled three different ways. A single R, as in dormir, or double R, as in erreur, a mistake, or R followed by an H, as in un rhume, a cold. All sound exactly the same. Finally, there are some instances when the letter R becomes silent in French. For instance, at the end of verbs ending in ER, manger, to eat, danser, to dance, aimer, to love. And also for words ending in ER, boulanger, baker, boucher, butcher, fermier, farmer, entier, full, but attention, watch out. If you turn these words into feminine words, then you'll add an E after the R, and the R will then be sounded. Un boulanger, une boulangère. Dernier, dernière. Entier, entière. There you go. We have covered so much in this video. I hope you feel much more confident with sending the French letter R. This is a video that you should come back to. Keep practicing from. Practice is really important in order to build a little bit of muscle memory. You will then find it really natural to pronounce the French R's. R. So as usual, a little extra bonus for you. I'm going to leave 2 links in the description below. The first one will be for the Edith Piaf track, Non, je ne regrette rien, a lovely piece of French culture. And if Edith Piaf is not your thing, I'm going to leave a link this time for a more modern track by Jane Birkin. The title is Oh pardon, tu dormais? Oh sorry, you were asleep. So a lot of R's in this already. And the specificity of this track is that both Jane Birkin, who is originally English but spoke French completely fluently with the tiniest of accents, and Etienne Dao, who composed the track, are both singing in this song. So there are opportunities to actually hear 2 people from 2 different nationalities sounding their R's. I have chosen a link without the video clip, which I find a little bit distracting, but you can follow the song with the lyric in the 3rd link, which I have provided in the comments below. What I think is interesting in this track is to appreciate the beauty of speaking a language with a little bit of an accent. Do remember, your accent is part of your personality, and as long as you can be understood, there is absolutely nothing wrong to speaking a foreign language with an accent. May I be the proof of that?